Hi, Dr. Yass here. In this video, I want to try to explain why the Yass method is so incredibly unique in its ability to diagnose and treat the cause of pain, which in more than 98% of cases is muscular. So with all these cases being muscular, you have to be able to know which particular muscles are responsible for creating the symptoms. And then just as importantly, be able to understand which particular exercises you need to do to address any particular muscle, as well as understand the basis of progressive resistance, which is the ability of a muscle to adapt to greater and greater resistances so that it can eventually get strong enough until its force output is greater than the force requirement of the activity being performed. And then you are pain-free and fully functional. So the thing that separates the Yass method over anything that exists relates to the fact that it is performed not through a particular curriculum. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. What I do has nothing to do with physical therapy. Nothing I'm doing relates to any education that was given in physical therapy school. It doesn't matter what the practitioner is doing. Most practitioners are following a curriculum. The way to understand the Yass method is to imagine if Arnold Schwarzenegger and Albert Einstein had a mutant stepchild, that would have produced the Yass method. And people always laugh. So what happens a lot of times for me is that I get people better in a treatment or two, and they go on and want to try to tell their friends or family or coworkers, you got to use this thing. And the person always says inevitably the same thing. So what is it that he does? And so the person says, well, he uses exercise and he tries to resolve pain. And they're like, well, I've tried that and that didn't work. But this is what separates the Yass method form of exercise and understanding of mechanics versus anybody who's trying to treat based on their curriculum. And that is that it really relates back to my childhood when I was this very, very thin guy and I had self-esteem issues. And I decided I was going to try to change my life by learning how to strength train. And I tried all the stuff that Joe Weider and Arnold Schwarzenegger promotes, including protein powders and all this nonsense. And it didn't work from 19 to 26. Then at 26, I remembered that I had taken a high school physics course. And I started to recognize that weightlifting is related to physics, a form of physics that relates to force vectors. So gravity's pushing down. And when weightlifting, you're basically trying to push up. So you have to understand things like force vectors and lever arms. What's the proper distance? How do you know which muscle is doing what? What's the proper position of your hand? And then fulcrums, which is how do you stabilize one side of the muscle so the other side can pull on the bone to create the force pushing the resistance. And then there was just a lot of other aspects, potential energy, kinetic energy, all these different types of equations that relate to physics that allowed me to develop an understanding whereby over 4 years, I put on 40 pounds and subsequently put on another 20 pounds. I went from 160 pounds to 220 pounds. I had learned this understanding just before I was entering physical therapy school. So once I got out of physical therapy, I had this understanding. And then I was given the opportunity to treat people who were being told the cause of their pain was structural because the MRI found the structural variation at the time of their pain and therefore was asserted to be the cause. And yet the presentation of their symptoms was saying that the symptom being experienced was coming from a muscle. And therefore, the only way to resolve the symptom and dysfunction that was correlated to the symptom was to identify which muscles were responsible for the symptoms and dysfunction, and then understand how to do isolated strength training and use progressive resistance. And you had to understand it at this super high level of nuance so that you are sure that you are isolating an individual muscle, which is the only way you can strengthen a muscle. And you had to have learned something about progressive resistance, which is the basis by which muscles adapt to greater resistances, thereby getting stronger, creating more force, again, until the force output is greater than the force requirement of the activity. So if you've gone for therapy or treatment and someone's told you to do like 15 exercises right off the bat, that probably can't be true. In my 30 years of experience, I found that for almost any person who's having muscular caused pain, it's 3 to 4 muscles primarily that are responsible. If someone's telling you your pain is only on one side and you're doing both sides, exercise with both sides, again, that just doesn't make any sense. The symptoms are on one side. Therefore, symptoms represent a tissue in distress. If it's only on one side, that means only one side muscles are responsible for the symptoms. So if you're doing both sides, you're sustaining an imbalance between both sides, thereby limiting the brain's desire to want to weight bear on the side with the symptom. And that actually leads to greater weakness and dysfunction. That's why you keep doing your exercise and you're never getting better. Huge numbers of people tell me about the fact that they get a sheet of paper and they're doing these exercises. And I say, so where's the resistance? No resistance, no resistance. So without progressive resistance, the muscle only adapts to resistance to cause it to adapt and get stronger and make more muscle mass. Without resistance, you're wasting your time. I don't care if you've done the exercise 7 days a week and you've been very studious in doing it, but if you haven't progressed resistance, the muscle hasn't gotten one iota stronger, just wasting your time, right? And then there's even things like that. The idea, oh, you should do this every day. Well, if you're trying to strengthen a muscle and you are causing it to adapt to greater resistances during the bout of exercise, you're not growing muscle, you're creating micro tears in muscles. And those micro tears have to heal during an inflammatory response that occurs the next 24 to 48 hours after the bout of exercise. Therefore, if you try to strengthen a muscle during the bout of exercise, you have a high propensity towards straining the muscle. So you should never really exercise a muscle more than 3 times a week, thereby allowing there to be the healing phase, which in fact is where the muscle grows. Okay. So these are the kind of understanding that are at the core of the Yass method. You're not going to find that in a curriculum. Everything I just described to you, you don't find that in a curriculum in physical therapy or anywhere else. The understanding of progressive resistance, no. The understanding of how to isolate muscles, no. There is no weightlifting 101 for any curriculum in the medical field. So when people talk about the fact the Yass method got them better in 1 to 2 treatments, and they used exercise with resistance to do that, this is the basis of why this use of exercise and resistance and understanding achieve those goals, where other people that quote unquote are doing exercise are not achieving goals. In terms of other types of exercise-based activities like yoga, Pilates, using treadmills, aqua size, just recognize that any of these types of things are group muscle activities. I consider them activities. And as a result, if there is a weakened muscle or an imbalanced muscle, doing the activity will never suck out the weakened or imbalanced muscle and allow you to isolate it and strengthen it. If in fact anything's happening, doing the group muscle activity is causing you to compensate for the weakened or imbalanced muscle, thereby causing other muscles to strain and potentially continue to have pain. And certainly limit the chance of you ever getting to the isolated muscle that requires strength or balancing. And therefore doing that is sustaining the time frame you have your pain. So if you have a muscular deficit responsible for your pain, doing group muscle activities will never, ever resolve the cause of your symptoms. So I just thought it would be great for people to get an understanding from me so that you could understand what makes the Yass method so unique. And if you have been resolved through it with a treatment or two, and you're trying to get people to understand what's so different about it, here's your chance to play them a video from the horse's mouth. Okay? So now you understand what makes the Yass method, and basically it is the equivalent of the mutant stepchild of the marriage between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Albert Einstein. Okay? So if you like this video, you think it's helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you like my YouTube channel, Dr. Mitchell Yass, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notifications when new videos are added. If you'd like to contact me by email, you could do so at drmitch@mitchellyass.com. If you think this is a beneficial method for you and you'd like to schedule a session, whether in person in Jacksonville, Florida, I have a brand new, beautiful office, or by Yass Method Zoom session, you could do so by going to my website, Live Without shoulderpains.com. You'll see a schedule now button. Click on that and it'll give you the opportunity to schedule for either an in-person or Zoom session. So for now, this is Dr. Mitchell Yass wishing you a pain-free, fully functional life. Bye-bye for now.